you got to get up with purpose every day, and you have to be disciplined. And if you can't, it's going to be really, really hard to be that great leader, great business owner that you want to be.
Hello there and welcome back to the My Future Business Show. My name's Rick Nuske. I'm your host. It's so great to be back with you. When you have a bit of a break in between calls, it's kind of nice to refresh. I don't know about you, but it certainly helps me to, I guess, reinvigorate myself for this wonderful call that we have today. Now, I just want to say thank you very much for all of your support. I love reading through the feedback and watching some of the video feedback we're getting as well nowadays. So that's very exciting. So keep that coming through. And now on today's show, I have the pleasure of welcoming CEO and co-founder of The Shift Spot, Mr. Ken Paskins. Welcome to the show, Ken.
Rick, thanks. Great to be here. Real pleasure. Appreciate it.
Yes, thank you again. Now, you and I are going to be talking about how CEOs can make radical shifts that unlock next level results inside their business and in their life. But I guess it's somewhat customary for us, Ken, to spend a bit of time learning a bit about yourself. So where are you calling in from today?
I'm coming just outside of Atlanta, Georgia, so Sandy Springs area, which I don't expect you to know, but I think some of our stateside guests will.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, I've been to the States a number of times, so I know a little bit about the place. So it's certainly a large place, that's for sure and certain. But have you lived there all your life?
I have not. Born and raised in the Midwest in Indiana, Colorado for about 12 years, been here for roughly 18.
Well, tell us a little bit about life growing up as a kid. Can you remember it? And do you have any positive things?
Oh, geez, do I remember all of it? No.
It's funny, Ken, because the only rule I ever had growing up is that we had to be home by the time the lights came on. Similar for you?
Yeah. So, I grew up in a small Midwest town where everybody knew each other, just north of Indianapolis. Cornfields everywhere, right? So grew up with a very strong work ethic, started literally working out in the fields and with the farmers, if you will, when I was age 10, making money. My father and his grandfather and his father were all entrepreneurs. My dad had a lot of ups and downs, to be quite honest, as a businessman, which set me in my path in life, where he would they took a lot of risks. He put a lot of money on Red 37 to roll the dice, and sometimes it'd be boom. And literally my mom would come to me as a 10-year-old and ask to borrow money for the phone bills.
Oh, wow.
And then there'd be other times he'd hit it out of the pet park and make a ton of money. But grew up there, went to Purdue University, graduated, then moved to Colorado and spent some time there and started my professional track, and then moved my family here to Georgia.
Yeah, so. Fantastic. Now, do you like pets? Did you have any pets in your life growing up?
Lots. Boy, you're hitting one of my famous areas, actually. Look, I'll just embarrass myself, but I had lots of pets and dogs and all that, and I was a 4-H guy, which are some of the folks here will know what that is. And I had a state champion rabbit, believe it or not, Rick, an actual state champion rabbit. So yes,
I've never heard anything like that, but I certainly have heard about somebody very special in your life. Now, tell us about the operational dog in charge, Mr. Tucker.
Mr. Tucker. Okay, well, thanks for pointing that out. Yes, he's my current lab. He's a pointing hunting lab. He's actually retired. He's about 14 years old, going on 15 soon. But great dog, and labs are phenomenal animals. So.
Yeah. Now, well, look, I know that we all have some hobbies, I guess, when we get a bit of downtimes and the things we like to do. Do you like hobbies or sports? What's your thing?
I do. I anything outdoors. So honestly, when it hits winter here and it turns dark about 5 p.m., I start to hibernate. But once it gets spring, I love to run. I love to bike. I love to swim, fish, do a lot of boating and everything. So really just about anything outdoor that you can imagine.
So tell us, does it get very cold where you live?
A lot of people think it doesn't, but it does. I mean, it will get in the teens Fahrenheit, so you'll have to do the conversions there for Celsius.
Yeah.
But I forget the equation. I think it's divided by 1.8 and subtract 32 or somewhere around there.
It's not much different.
Yeah. But it can get chilly here, so it can also get very hot too.
Now, I know that you're also an avid chef. I love cooking. I'm probably not very good at it, but tell me, where did this love for cooking come from?
Generations, and honestly, one of the reasons that I did not get in the restaurant business. So my great grandfather owned a restaurant, and he was actually, I don't know if you have this where you're at, but some of the folks here, but during the Great Depression, he invented, his name was Beanie, and he invented a thing called Beanie's Weenies, which is beans and weenies in a
Yeah,
can.
yeah.
And he served people during the Great Depression now. I think Campbell's owns it now. He made no money on it. I don't know how that took place, but he was actually the founder. So
Yeah, wow.
my father then jumped into the restaurant industry as well, owned a variety of restaurants, a lot of, as I stated earlier, a lot of boom and bust. So it's just been in my bloodline. And, I'm one of those types of guys that I don't use a recipe. I grow all my own herbs, and I'll just find a piece of meat and just fix it and come up with it. And I can go to a restaurant, taste something, try something, and go home and duplicate it. And people get quite aggravated with that skill set.
Oh,
But
I tell you
I
what.
love cooking.
Yeah, no, it is a skill set. Do you have anything in particular you like the most to cook?
Ossobuco and probably paella. Those are two things that take a ton of time, but I love to cook them, and the results are phenomenal.
Yeah, fantastic feedback. Thank you so very much. Now, you talked about working in the cornfields a moment ago. That's obviously linked directly to, at some point in time, your first entrepreneurial experience. Can we just touch on that again and talk a little bit about, what that did for you, having that exposure to, I guess, somewhat a bit of failure on your father's part in a business sense, and what did that teach you about your own approach?
Well, so I think there was a couple things there. So I started working in the fields because my dad made a commitment. He's like, look, whatever money you earn as a kid, I'm going to match it.
Yep.
And little did he know I'd earned so much, and I literally earned enough to go out and match and buy a black on black 1977 Corvette, which irritated him that I earned so much. But but after working in the fields for years, I was one of those kids that I owned and created businesses like a painting company and Owen Lawns and all that good and great stuff. But watching my dad go through that, I knew that I wanted to go out and learn in corporate America. So after I graduated, I got into high-tech software specifically. And right after 9/11, I closed a $40 million software deal with a company by the name of Quest Communications in Colorado.
Yep.
And quite honestly, that was the springboard for my career. I was very, I guess, cocky at that age. I was young and successful. And the company that I worked with was gracious enough to recognize that and my talent, and they put me in their executive track. And I got a lot. I was actually the only salesperson and non-manager in the executive track, and then I just kind of grew professionally from there, and went to multiple companies and ended up managing teams up to 450 people and P&Ls up to $500 million. So I think I'm giving you more than you asked, but that's kind of my cornfield through trajectory of corporate America per se. But I knew I knew I wanted to go out there and learn from others first before doing something on my own, just because I had a lot of drama as a child, just lights on, phone works, phone doesn't work. And I didn't want to do that to my family.
Yeah, thank you very much for the feedback, Ken. Absolutely loving this call. Now, when you look at the people that were around you, you started off with your father early on, then you obviously went on this executive track you talked about. There must have been some people that guided you through those stages. Now, what about mentorship? What do you think of it? And is it important for people who want to develop professionally?
Yeah, mentorship is extremely important, and I've had several folks I've been fortunate enough to work with through my career that paid a little extra attention to me, if you will, and guided me, and instead of kicking me in the teeth because of my I guess my thirst to grow even more, they humbled me per se and assisted me. But I think anybody, to be successful, both, either a solopreneur, entrepreneur, executive or whatever, you definitely need to rely on folks around you to support you, which quite honestly is one of the things that we do at the Shift Spot. So.
Yeah, great. And we're going to be talking a lot about that when we shift gears in a moment. But tell me what a day looks like for you. Are you an early riser? I'm not necessarily.
I am. I am. And look, Rick, I don't know your age. You look pretty young. I'm guessing you're what, 32.
Thanks.
So,
you know how to rub up a guy the right way.
But unfortunately or fortunately, the older we get, the less sleep we need, right? So
Yep.
and we wake up early every morning and go, man, I wish I had 2 more hours of sleep, but heck, I'm up. So
Yep.
anyways, I am up early, and I don't know if there is an average day, if you will. I start with my coffee like most. I get into my email like most. I respond to people in social media that, follow me or have questions or whatever. And, I generally will review things from a business perspective and then dive into meetings and do podcasts and do events with the Shift Spot or others. But I don't know if I have a set schedule.
Yeah, no, that's good. I like the fact that you have the ability to make that choice. That time and location freedom must be
Yeah.
very empowering. How does that make you feel having that opportunity?
Yeah, I love it. And quite honestly, I've been fortunate because, prior to going from working in big corporate America and then even after as I operated as a fractional COO, my entire career, I've been remote, right? So grew up in the software ranks and your boss is in California and your teams around the country are international, right? So, and then, then going in as a fractional executive and helping companies. I had companies or customers in Puerto Rico, Portland, Oregon, New Hampshire. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So it's COVID didn't change anything for me. I was accustomed to that. It was actually kind of funny if I can not to get off track too much, but
No, that's
years
fine.
ago, many years ago, before we did video, it was always phone work, right?
Yep.
And I would get up, I'd run, I'd be in my shorts. I wouldn't shave or shower until dinner time, wear a
Yep.
hat because
Yep.
nobody knew. And one day, my oldest daughter, who just turned 25 today, it's hard to believe she was probably 10 at that time,
Time flies, doesn't it?
somehow came up like, do you know what Dad does? It's like, no,
No.
right? And I had to explain it to her. And then she realized that it was tied to software and tied to sales and salespeople. And she looked at me in disgust, Rick. Like I was just, she was very
Three-headed monster.
disappointed. Right. I wasn't anything cool. So I was like, hon, who do you think is paying your bills? How do you think we're turning the lights on? This is what Dad does. But anyways, yeah, I digress.
No, not at all. Look, this is what gives the My Future Business Show, I guess, a bit of an edge because we talk about these things that matter because there's obviously people behind a business and obviously families and things like that. But what do you think, given all the chances that you've taken and I guess the story you've just explained to us about your daughters, what do you think they've learned from you as a father, do you think?
Well, that's a great question. And just like all of us, I think we go through evolutions in life, right? So
Yep.
I'm a very radically different, thank God, person that I was as a teen, as a 20-year-old, as, somebody in my 40s. I think, I'm like a fine wine, right? Like we all are.
Getting better.
And I think my daughters have probably seen a guy that, and I know this because they've shared this with me, a very stable individual, a very loving individual, a very caring individual, but also a person that, knows what they want, is very committed and dedicated, both to, family, friends, God, and country and company.
Yep.
Right. And I think they've learned a lot from those disciplines. I mean, my oldest daughter, she was on a track to become a professional ballet dancer and had multiple offers, and she actually, went to Indiana University, which is, believe it or not, it's the premier school for ballet in the States. Very hard to get in. 300 girls applied. They took 4 freshmen. She was one of them. And she chose not to. And I'm glad because she said, Dad, I choose not to because everybody's anorexia. They don't make money and they do cocaine. It was like, good choice.
Yeah, wow.
But anyway, she had that track, and then
Yep.
my middle one was a triathlete that a bunch of young girls that they were literally training to be Olympians. As a matter of fact, 2 people on her team were one was a girl that was a starter in Olympics, and a boy was a backup, I guess is the best way to put it. And so, she was on she was elite in her area, and then my youngest CrossFit and a known name in CrossFit. So I think they've learned that. And when I tell people I have 3 girls, they always look at me and go, boy, I feel sorry for you. But they made great grades. They stayed away from boys. They stayed away from drugs. They stayed away from alcohol.
Yep.
and they've got their lives together. And my middle is, she's moving to Nashville actually next month, and she's going to be an architect, just graduated. So I
That's
think
incredible.
they learned a lot of that discipline, focus, and execution from me, which I'm proud of.
Yeah, look, well done. Obviously, a success in that part of your life, in many parts of your life. Thank you very much for the feedback. Now, in terms of moving away from a corporate environment where, you decided you wanted to start the shift spot, there was
Yep.
obviously a risk and you had to take a chance on yourself. You had to make a strategic decision. Hey, look, this is the direction I'm going to take.
Yeah.
What was the experience like making that transition?
Well, so it was easy. So right after corporate America, there is a gap of about 8 years prior to the shift spot as well. So
Yeah.
when I made that decision to leave corporate America, I was at a stage where I was managing a P&L of $500 million and a large team, and I was traveling 150,000 miles a year, right? And I remember my admin. I still remember the conversation. We were trying to fit more on my calendar, and she said, "Ken, the reason you don't have any space is you have 52 pre-planned hours every single week."
Wow.
So regardless of what would happen, right, things just got piled onto that, right? So literally one day I just dropped out and I quit. And then once that happened, I started operating as an advisor and then a fractional COO. And then I started actually working with a bunch of different businesses, right, and owners that were struggling, looking to get to the next level, helping them with deals around M&A or PE investments, just struggled hiring people and all of that. And I started to see a lot of these same movies play in and out, Rick. I'm struggling with how do I hire the right people, or, how do I scale my company, and not understanding how to add systems and processes to the company versus throwing bodies, understanding, how to make decisions with financial data versus gut and opinion and emotions, right? So I saw a lot of this, and I saw a lot of struggle, and I saw a lot of challenge. And by the way, here's an interesting statistic. 50% of CEOs and owners out there learn everything that they know from their own company, right? So they teach themselves about leadership, hiring, firing, finance, and all that. I saw that, and then I took my childhood history, right, and seeing my father, right, with ups and downs like this. And then I took corporate America, and I wanted to do something different. So the shift spot is actually that. It's my full life career evolving into that.
Yep.
Where
Yep.
I wanted to surround business owners, and CEOs with all the tools and the things that it takes for them to be successful. So that is, experts, right? That is coaching and focusing on the areas of leadership and process and operations and et cetera, et cetera. And that beautiful little
Yes,
wheel
I love
back
it.
there talks about
Yep.
some of the different things that we do. But that's a formation of the shift spot.
Yeah,
So
great
pretty
feedback.
excited about it. But I didn't just drop out and say, "Hey, I'm gonna risk it. I'm gonna try something that hasn't worked." I've been at this in another angle for years, working with
Progressing.
smaller businesses, seeing a lot of these pain points.
Now, tell me a little bit. It could have easily have turned into, I guess, a bit of a breakdown situation for your health and well-being in general. How how important is it, do you think, to look after ourselves and take that bit of a time away from business?
Yeah, it's extremely important, and we and I have always been a believer that without balance of mind, body, and soul, then you can't be the best person that you need to be, right? So, and if you notice it, and I won't go through every component of the wheel, we actually have a balance aspect on there, right?
Yep.
So if
Yep.
you join our community, we have doctors that will give out advice, right? Going through stressful times, try this, take these vitamins, answer questions in the community, et cetera, right? And offer assistance there because look, when I was a younger guy, right? So I believed in burning the candle at both ends, and
Yep.
I believed that I could get all the results I possibly wanted. And I did not understand or comprehend what burnout is, and I do now. Not only that, but I see that without that balance and without that ability to step away sometimes, right, and self-reflect and work on yourself and everything, then you're quite simply not going to get the results. You're going to come across poorly as a leader. Your communication isn't going to be as clear to your employees. Your execution is not going to be as good as it needs to be. So having that balance is extremely important.
Yeah, great feedback. Now, I know that you're obviously a leader in your space, and obviously this takes discipline. How important is it for the people that you work around, and obviously yourself? Because some mornings we might wake up and think, I don't feel like this, but does that matter? And is it more important to be disciplined and get it done anyway?
Boy, so let me see if I understand your question. So I think what I heard was, how important is it for you or others to wake up and be committed to it? And is that correct, Rick? I
Yeah,
just want to be
absolutely.
okay.
How important is discipline?
Yeah, yeah, I think it's extremely important. And look, I'll admit I'm human. There's days I've woken up, I'm like, boy, I'd really like to sleep in.
Pull the covers
Even
back
though we've
over.
already established sleeping in doesn't happen, but we like to pretend we might get an extra hour of sleep. Right? I'd love that, but it doesn't happen. I mean, I
Yeah,
think every day, we've got to have a plan, right? And you got to stay disciplined, to get the results that you want in life, right? Both personally and professionally. And if you don't, then why do it? Why pretend, right? So, it kind of reminds me, my triathlete daughter that I referred to earlier,
yep,
right?
yep.
People learn from failure, right? She was really good, but not good enough to go to the Olympics, right?
Yep,
So her
yep.
friends were good enough to go to the Olympics, but she was really good, and she would get really disappointed sometime. And I would never push her like, you must do this, you must win, you must practice, you must do. It's like, hon, I'm here to support you. Whatever you need, I'll do it. I'll
You'll do
match
it.
your enthusiasm, right? So she'd get done with races and place like 10th out of 75 girls was always a full event. And she would place 10th, and we debrief. How do you think you did? Oh, I'm disappointed. So-and-so won. So-and-so did this. So-and-so did. What do you think you could have done different? Well, I didn't get as much sleep as I should have this week. I didn't
Ah,
hydrate as much as I should this week. And she would reflect. And I would tell her, it's like, take that, leverage it, do it again, right? But focus on what you want, not what you think dad wants or others want. And I think that, that also drives a lot of self-accountability. But, to answer your question, you got to get up with purpose every day, and you
yeah.
have to be disciplined. And if you can't, it's going to be really, really hard to be that great leader, great business owner that you want to be.
Yeah, this is wonderful. Thanks again for sharing. Now, what do you think, out of all the things, the sum total of your entire professional life, what do you think you do best? What's the one thing
What
you
do I
do
do best? Direct
amongst the
feedback,
many?
direct, non-transparent feedback, call it how it is, right? Um, Leveraging data to make decisions versus emotion. I'm a very non-emotional type leader, right? High D followed by C. If you, I'm sure you're familiar with DISC,
Yes.
and my Myers-Briggs is the executive profile. Let's see. Leading, through example and setting clearer expectations to those that I want and need results from. I think those are three things that randomly come to
Yeah, that's
mind.
great. Thank you again. Now, tell me about leadership. Is it the domain of the few, or something that everybody should have ownership of?
Is it, say that one more time, Rick, please.
In terms of leadership, is it the domain of just the top end managers, or does everybody have a role to play as a leader?
I think that anybody that actually has people under them, they have to understand the components of leadership. And I think
Yep.
too often we confuse that with what management is, meaning task execution, et cetera, where leadership is more setting the vision, right? Creating the communication and the connectivity with the employees, right? Setting clear expectations. But I think, like, look, if you're going to, we'll call it manage, lead, whatever you want to call it, and there is a difference between leading and managing. If you have people under you, you have to understand that, right? And if you don't, you're gonna suffer from results. You're gonna suffer from lack of engagement. You're gonna suffer through lack of, poor execution. You're gonna suffer from employee turnover.
Yeah, you have obviously a very wide range of skill sets. What's a fractional COO actually mean and do?
Yeah, so as a fractional COO, I mean, my job is to get in. I'll tell you what my kids call me. Call me the fixer, right?
Yeah,
So I mean, literally,
yeah,
over the past 8 years or whatever, operating as that. I mean, I'm the type of guy that people call I've got problems, right? And I've got some war stories that would scare the heck out of you. From, one guy that had a full-time COO and was thinking that he was outgrowing them, and they're kind of running the business, and he wants me to come in initially and just coach and mentor and everything. And if there was something there, then take over. But he was struggling, and they had this conversation. They agreed that they would separate. So after 2 weeks of getting in there, I can deep dive quickly and understand. After 2 weeks of getting in there, I said, hey, you got to fire this person. The guy's like, what? Fire? Wow. They're critical of my business. They're this or that. You got to fire this person, and here's why. And I couldn't convince him of it. And I said, fine, all I can do is advise. It's your choice and how you want to execute. So we agreed to wind them, and I'll keep sex, I'll keep company name, I'll keep everything out of it. Wind them out of the company. During that process of winding them out of the company, Rick, I identified that this person embezzled $250,000.
Oh, wow.
I identified that they tarnished his name with employees and also distributors. So, and in such a poor way that he had actually lawsuits that were piling up against him.
Oh, no.
Right? I identified that this person had 4 aliases. And what I never knew is there's evidently, in the States anyways, if you want to talk to prisoners, there's a prisoner line and a special phone line just for prisoners. I guess it's probably the recording. She was speaking to prisoners. And we went to an attorney. An attorney said, hey, we can go after her, right? She's going to counter sue, and this is what's going to happen. You're probably going to spend $500,000, and then you may or may not win. So the poor guy, we had to actually, unravel his business, if you will, and sell off the IP and then help him spin up something else. But I run in, I won't say that's normal.
No, exception.
A lot of other times, most of the other CEOs that I've worked with are, hey, I've got this company and it's now $10 million. And, I thought it'd get easier at 2. I thought it'd get easier at 5. I thought it'd get easier at 10. And it's not. I'm a bad leader, right? I don't have any processes. Things are out of control. I started this out as a fun, great idea, and it's literally outgrown me. Come help me. So those are typically the things that I've gotten involved with, as a fractional COO. Go in where people, you wouldn't believe how many CEOs have come to me and said, do you think I should actually go backwards and scale backwards? Would it be easier? Right. Yeah. And they have that thought because it was fun when it's $500,000, right? I thought it'd be really fun when it was 5 million, but now I'm working harder and making less money sometimes than even my employees.
Makes you wonder, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. But, but really it's helping those individuals, right? And what the shift spot does, helping those individuals and rounding them out and giving them the tools that they need to be successful, right? To put those foundational things in place so that they can scale successfully.
That story you just shared with me was amazing. It's almost bordering on forensic auditing. There must be so many different elements to obviously your business. Go ahead.
Let me add that I did not do any, forensic, investigating or audits whatsoever. I fortunately had a fractional CFO in there as well. And so we began to unravel things together, but he was definitely the brain. I was the investigator. He was the brain, is the best way to put it.
Well, look, what do they say? Teamwork makes the dream work if you've got the right people. Now, tell me, the name The Shift Spot. Where did that come from?
My partner, Winter, by the way. So, I'm not a marketer. I won't pretend to be one. So my other company, by the way, that where I have a consulting practice, and it's a fractional leaders, and I'll just leave it at that. But its name is GCE Strategic Consulting because I couldn't think of a name. Well, the G stands for Gabrielle, my daughter. The C stands for Chloe, my middle daughter, and the E stands for Emma, right? So that's the best thing I can come up with. But after speaking about just, the events and where I wanted to go and how I wanted to help other leaders and everything and business owners, she came up with it. It's just like, why not?
Yeah, great.
Spot. It's a place where business owners can go and make radical shifts in business and life and have balance and live that life that they choose. So that worked.
I think that's a great segue to talk about the wonderful Winter. Tell us about your relationship with Winter and how much she means to you and your business.
Yeah. So I appreciate that. So the one thing we didn't touch on is I have three beautiful daughters that I'm very close with, but uh, I got divorced because of chasing my career. Well, so let's just be truthful
It
about that.
happens.
So Winter and I, we're engaged. We'll be married this September. Phenomenal
Congratulations.
individual. Been with her for 3 years, and I'm blessed because my daughters absolutely love and adore her.
Great.
But she is, as they say, my better half.
Yep.
We have so much in common. It's scary, right? So she has the same humor I do, same intensity I have, the same dreams I have, right? She's just much better looking than me, right? So
Oh yeah, by a long way.
thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate this because it gives I guess, that human aspect to a business. Like I said earlier, the nuts and bolts of business generally don't change that much, but the people certainly do. Now, tell me,
Yeah.
what does peer strategy mean, and what part does it play in the shift spot?
What does what?
Peer strategy.
What does strategy mean?
No, peer strategy. I was
Yeah.
looking through your information. You had information about peer strategy.
Oh, okay. So I'm not sure. Maybe it was mistyped on but peer advisory, maybe
Yeah, I think
it
it
could
might have
be.
been,
Okay. All
could
right.
have been that.
Gotcha. All right. So when we formed the Shift Spot, it was looking at everything out there that supports and surrounds CEOs,
Yep.
right? So I looked at there's a bunch of different systems out there, operating systems, like an operating system called Scaling Up or EOS, right? You have expensive fractional guys and leaders like I've served for 8 years. You've got professional coaches. Of course, you can go get your MBA or something along those lines. You can get an advisory board. You can join Vistage. You can join EO, right? So there's all these ways that owners can get help and everything. So the peer advisory section, right? We have a twice a week, and as the business scales, we'll add more to that section where, and this takes a component out of Vistage, to be quite honest, where CEOs will actually sit in a virtual room, and it's professionally facilitated. And we'll look at like some of the top issues that are actually going on in their lives, and we'll solve them together. We'll use a Six Sigma approach. We'll drive down and get to the root cause of it, and we'll actually solve it. So, for example, one of the members not too long ago, he has 15 different retail companies. He's in the alternative health area, vitamins, and all that good stuff. And his business was on a downturn, and he came to the table and he said, "Hey, look, I never have had to do a layoff, and I'm not getting what I want out of my staff, and they're not executing to the level that I need." And we actually helped him in not just me, but us collectively, right? Helped him in a variety of areas, but we flipped it upside down. We're like, hey, look, instead of looking at the bottom line, let's look at the top line. What can we do differently, right, to actually drive revenue?
Yep.
So a couple of the folks on it came up with some ideas. He went out and launched, I think it was either 3 or 4 new products, and changed his approach from a marketing perspective on the website that actually then ended up generating the revenue that he needed. And he did not have to lay off any people.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, but so those are things, if we believe and know, and I know working with CEOs that we all have different value adds and components, and we're learning through life, if you will. But it's an area where, if you've never done a commercial lease, you can bring that up and we can talk through it and collaborate. If you've never been sued, if you have never had to fire, your top employee, how do you mitigate those risks, right? How do you help the other employees understand that it's for the best interest of them and the company? But that's what that section is.
What I notice about you, Ken, and obviously Winter, you come armed with experience. You can't buy it. You can't get a well-rounded experience unless you've lived through it. And I think that's what a lot of your clients are obviously experiencing. Now, tell me a couple of things. Who is your best type of client? Who do you like working with? We'll start there.
Number one, it has to be somebody that knows that they don't have all the answers, and they want to learn, right? They want to learn. They want to learn personally and professionally, and they strive and desire to grow and achieve, but they know that something's missing, right? Not a very good fit for I know it all. As a matter of fact, if you're the old saying, if you're the smartest in the room, then you're in the wrong room.
Yes,
Typically what I will call a small business, although small, in the United States, a lot of people hear that and go, oh, small. small in the United States makes up 98% of all the companies out there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So which 98% are 100 employees or below, 89% are 20 employees or below. And typically we work with CEOs, founders, co-founders,
Yep.
people that start the business that have 10 years or less of experience, right? In business experience, right? These are the folks that, that like my father and others, but, so if you fit that from a size perspective, if you fit that from I desire to get the results that I need and deserve, right? And if you want to challenge yourself and grow and be a part of something and work with others as well, then this is a home for you. If you don't, then hey, there's lots of other great places.
There's always another path forward. Now,
yeah.
You obviously help people stop digging when they realize they're in a hole. How does it make you feel when you see that transformation?
It's huge, actually. It's great. It's a lot of fun. So because I have the saying that a lot of CEOs, get tired of beating their head against the wall, and oftentimes they will find themselves surrounded by individuals of yes men and women as well, right?
Yeah.
And they because I think a lot of times if the executives and their team as we grow the organization are scared to speak up or whatever, they don't understand their space properly within the system to help the entire business grow, right? So, I see a lot of CEOs that crave and thirst that critical feedback, that critical support, that discipline and directness as well. And when you can make that switch and help them see something different and help them stop beating their head against the wall and stop the bleeding, it's very rewarding.
Yeah, because you obviously have forged real relationships that obviously last quite a long time. You've built a membership and a community around it. Tell us a little bit about, I guess, how you onboard new clients and what's the experience like for them.
Yeah, so the onboarding is, what we do at first is we'll schedule a call, and we've got a little video that takes you through a checklist, and I'll keep the tactics out of it. Yep. And then we will actually do a gap analysis, and a gap analysis, which is something I actually formed in my other business and doing what I've done through the years. But it's exhaustive, and you don't have to do all of it, but the more you do, the more we can help you. But it's made up of 200 questions, right, Rick? And honestly, I'll have some CEOs say, this is scary, I only know 10% of these. But I will run through things such as, do I have, financial controls in place? Yes or no? And do I even know what that means, right? Do I have employee onboarding in place, right? Some of these very simple, some of them harder. How much of my revenue comes from 20% of my company or my clients? So we'll look at sales, we'll look at marketing, we'll look at systems, we'll look at operations and processes, we'll look at HR, we'll look at finance, we'll look at all those areas. And then we'll identify some of the areas of opportunity, if you will, right? So, look, you say that you have employee issues. Well, you have no onboarding, you have no coaching or mentoring, you're not giving critical feedback, you're not setting expectations correctly, you're lacking here, you're lacking here, you're lacking here. So that would help us actually identify where they can get the most value. So once we do that, we'll also then schedule a weekly accountability call. So short and sweet, 15 minutes, we'll hit two key things. What's top priority this week personally, and what's top priority this week professionally, and then also ask them what they had to do in the community or what they need from the community. And that's it. So they'll do that 15-minute call. Their choice on the other events. So every week we have an expert come in and speak. This all separate, but they sign up through the app and in the community, and they'll get expertise. Like this month, by the way, is all around marketing. Next month is all human capital, right? And then I've broken down the issues section where we help them solve and get to their problems. But we're actually, just so you know, Rick, this month and next month, we've never done this before, but we've got sort of a sneak peek event, and I'm sure there's a better term from that from a marketing perspective.
Yep.
But people can see it. So,
yep.
If they go to shiftspot.com/grow event, this month is all free. And by the way, the guy that is doing it, the CMO, is all about marketing, how to achieve remarkable results in today's economy and environment. I just butchered what it was. My marketing folks are going to kill me. But anyways, he's a very well-known CMO. He actually created the little jingle around J.G. Whitworth, and as part of the Oprah show, and he's done some pretty big things. So we've got him this month, and then next month is all about human capital. So how to communicate across different, generations, right? How to attract and retain the right talent. So we're going to open that up to the public. If any of your listeners want to just go check out the shiftspot.com/grow event. So I know I expanded. You asked, what is my journey? The journey is gap analysis, get your accountability coach, and then sign up and join events. And by the way, we don't expect you to join everything. We have 144 events annually, right?
Wow.
It's all recorded. That content is all stored in the app itself. You can go in the app, you can communicate with other members, and you can watch it at your leisure also.
So you're doing some wonderful work. You build a community. The Shift Spot is making some dramatic changes in people's lives. It's factually transforming them. You've got a lot of people helping other people inside the community, and it's a real credit to you. So if anybody's on this call today, you're interested in the work that Winter and Ken are doing at the Shift Spot, make sure you visit theshiftspot.com. And with that, Ken, thank you so very much for joining me on the My Future Business Show today.
Rick, it's a great pleasure. I really appreciate you having me on.